Welcome back to another episode of the Fruitful 3 show, where today we'll dive into topics, well, every time we dive into topics that will hopefully bring you insight and value to your life and challenge the way you think. Today we are diving into job insecurity. We
Yeah,
have
buddy.
touched topics on this last year a little bit, but we're doing a full episode, so let's go. But this time we're going deeper than just AI. We're looking at how we got here from the golden age of job security to today's hustle economy.
Hi, I'm Levi, and joining me today is Isaiah.
Yes.
Obviously, as that is how you wrote it.
That is. Yeah.
I know.
Wow, that's crazy.
I know. Usually it's a little worded a little different, but I figured I had to take the lead on that one.
All right. Now we have touched on topics like this a bit last year, like I said, and we're back at it again with fresh data from 2025 and a whole lot of history that isn't just robots or coming talk. It's about understanding real systematic shifts that have been building for decades.
But before we get into this, Isaiah's got some merch update.
Yeah, I got merch. I got a lot of merch. Fall is here and it is getting cooler, as you can see. I have some hoodies on here and I have tank tops right now. That's crazy. But anyway, go bundle up at iceentertainment.net/drip with hoodies, long sleeves, beanies, and more.
I was just gonna say, it might be forward and right here right now, but in the state of Nebraska. But man, you could go down south and you could probably still be wearing tank tops down there, buddy.
Yeah.
So it ain't crazy. You got all 50 states bundled in one site.
Well, they also wear hoodies down south too.
I know.
Yeah.
They think it's weird that we wear t-shirts and shorts down south in 50-degree weather.
So we're down to one mic, if you haven't noticed. I do apologize. You probably didn't watch. Have you seen any of the clips I made?
Yeah, you have a backlash.
Yeah, because I've updated the software and it takes out, like, I had it for once. One time I had it fixed one time tonight. I have spent the last hour and a half trying to fix it. But one mic, while I hit record, does not work. But it works on the screen. It shows that it's working, but it doesn't actually work.
Yeah.
When you record. And then I had it switched.
So is that why there is all that backfeed?
Yes, because it was pulling. Well, it was my mic that was working, and so it was pulling your voice, trying to pick up the sound, and it was stretching the sound out and making us sound robotic. Now that we got that out of the way,
Mr. Roboto.
Do you think working hard will guarantee job security? And what would you do if your job got taken tomorrow?
Well, hopefully I hit the lottery overnight, so then I wouldn't have to worry about it.
Fair enough.
You know what the sad part is? You have to play the lotto just to win the lotto. And unfortunately, I don't play the lotto. So I guess I'd be screwed come tomorrow.
Why does any of this matter? Well, AI tools are changing what work looks like, not just adding new tech. Some tasks disappear, others change, and new jobs appear. Oh my goodness. But to understand what we're doing or where we're going, my goodness, we need to understand where we have been, because job insecurity didn't start with ChatGPT. It's been building for decades.
Why does job insecurity matter? This matters because AI and automation are already changing the shape of work, not just adding tools, but altering which tasks exist and how people are employed. New technologies don't just layer on top of work, they rip out certain tasks, they rewrite job descriptions, and they create entirely new roles. Researchers have long warned about large-scale displacement, people being pushed from one occupation to another, needing to retain, adapt, or risk unemployment. The ripple effects are broad: mental health, inequality, geographic disparities, social cohesion. These all hang in the balance.
So when we talk about job insecurity, we're not just talking about losing a job today. We're talking about living in a world where your job might shift under your feet, where you must evolve or be left behind.
Dun dun dun.
Terminator. I mean, yeah, that's
Okay, so you mentioned Terminator. So this is just a quick off topic deal. But did you know in China they actually have a robotic robotic suit that you can put on, and it charges up to like 8 hours. And what it does, like, so it attaches to your, like, it's like a belt, and then they have like straps that go down your side. And it's AI technology that can actually make you like run, walk, whatever you want to do, and you're not even physically using your muscles to do it. The whole AI is doing it for you.
they built that for people with disabilities, because I read about that when I was in elementary school, buddy.
Well, I'm just saying, as you mentioned Terminator, so
Yeah.
I was like, they're already working on robotic, I mean, that stuff. And then Elon Musk came out with his robots. Was it last year or whenever that was, his
don't pay
AI
attention.
technology? Yeah.
I don't pay attention to that. Who do you think I am? To really understand this, we need to talk about Morgan Housel, which I have the book. Yes, I used my nice little book of Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. A great book. If you want to read it, great book. He makes a PowerPoint, your worldview about money.
Does he make a PowerPoint or a powerful point?
Yeah, thank you. I
Gotcha, buddy.
was like, PowerPoint, what does that mean? All right, your worldview about money and work is shaped by the era you grew up in, and that helps explains why different generations see job security so differently.
Yeah, now we're gonna take a time. We're gonna time travel here, buddy.
Yes.
We're gonna go back to the golden age from like 1940s to the 70s.
Yeah, so after World War II, the whole world was in disarray because of World War II. And I'm just going off the limb and freestyling this because I remember it from reading the book. Anyway, America was in stress, and we're like, we can't rely on our allies because they're in the same boat we are, but well, they had more damage. So they're trying to rebuild too. So they were like, let's focus more on ourselves and building an economy here, which is where the big booming business came. And we started succeeding like no other. That's where our GOPs or is it GOPs or
Oh,
yeah,
I think.
yeah, you think? I don't know. Something, geo something started increasing, and we started making a crap ton of money, and this is how America became like a superpower in that time period. So they were focused more on in-house operations and business and trying to give out loans and stuff to help people start this business. So then soldiers came back to the GI Bill.
I swore the GI Bill started after the Twin Towers.
Which created free college, cheap mortgages, and job placement. Factories were booming, unions were strong, and pensions were the norm. Companies saw workers as long-term investments, and the phrase company man was a badge of honor, not an insult.
Actually, it was. Okay, fine.
Yeah, take that. Take that. Gosh, you're in the military too, man.
I know, but something so when the Twin Towers got hit in 01, there was something to do with the GI Bill, and it changed or something. Right? Like, I remember specifically that the GI Bill and something to do after going to war after the Twin Towers. But you are actually correct, because it says here that President Roosevelt signs the GI Bill into law on June 22nd, 1944. By 1956, 7.8 million veterans had used the GI Bill education benefits.
There you go.
So yeah.
So wages grew in steps with productivity. When companies made more, workers made more. And for the average worker, security was assumed. You worked hard, you stayed loyal, and you'd be fine. Job equaled identity plus loyalty. That's why many boomers stayed 40 plus years. Well, yeah, 20 to 40 years in one company. Security was baked into the system. So then we shift to the 1970s and the 1980s when all things started to go downhill.
Okay, let's back up here. So I just did some research on this, right?
Yeah.
So George H.W. Bush re-signed, so it's called the post 9/11 GI Bill. So he updated it, which gave more education benefits and other benefits, and he added those to the GI Bill. So that is where I was. That is where I was getting my information. See, I know my stuff. Just the timelines might be all jumbled together.
So back to the 70s and the 80s, this is when the stock market started to crash. I forget the reasoning behind it that Morgan goes into, but inflation and oil shocks hit the economy. Unions weakened their political and corporate pressure. Financial sector began pushing shareholder value as the number one priority, not worker value. Big difference. And not community value, but shareholder value. Companies started asking, why keep a worker for life when we can cut cost? The psychology began to shift from workers as investments to workers as expenses. Wow. So that all happened during the stock market crash of the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, so now we get in my era, the 90s.
Yeah.
Then came the 90s. Globalization and free trade deals like NAFTA in 1994 opened the door for cheap overseas labor. Screw you, Bill Clinton. Sorry. Factories closed across the Rust Belt. Millions of stable manufacturing jobs vanished overnight. Jobs moved to Mexico, China, and beyond, where wages were lower and regulations looser. Corporate America sold it as efficiency, but communities saw empty factories, broken towns, and insecure futures. Instead of a company for life, people got short-term contracts, temporary work, and massive layoffs.
Yep. Gotta love the 90s, bro.
Screw you, Bill Clinton.
Yep. That was. And then we get 9/11, and guess what? We don't have the money to fix our issues, and now we're, what, $37 trillion in debt?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Okay. How do I word this without getting us in trouble? But I respect the fact that we like to help other countries, right? But the problem is we've been doing this for several years of helping other countries and trying to help them rebuild their stuff. And we've been slowly forgetting about us. And that is why we're several trillion dollars in debt, is because we would rather invest money into other countries than invest money into our own country.
And whether you hate Donald Trump or not, he is trying to push everything back into this country to try to get back to the manpower we had of the 40s, 50s, and 60s. That's all he's trying to do. Whether it works or not, that is to be determined, and we'll see what happens. So what does that mean now? We don't have pensions anymore.
Yay.
We have 401ks, which make people on Wall Street richer. And you get a portion of it for retirement. Wow. and you get gig contracts
You
if
know,
you
you
want.
know the sad part about 401ks are? So when the stock market crashes, you're screwed.
Yeah, pretty much. Globalization and technology make jobs temporary. The expectation shifted. Gen Z and millennials never saw a job for life. We grew up watching recessions, layoffs, automation, and now AI. All sorts of things. And we saw epidemics, and we saw what else? There's like a video I watched the other day where they just
No.
listed off all this stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so as a millennial, because if you don't know how that actually works, is millennials are like, I believe 1988 to 1997, and in 97 that's when it went to Gen Z. So there are a lot of people out there who get Gen Z and millennials all screwed up, but if you actually look at your timeline, that's your timeline. And then what is it now? Like the alpha or something now?
Don't
Don't
ask me.
Yeah, don't quote me on that, but I believe it starts with an A now. But yeah, like growing up is there's a lot of things that like we saw the shift of and we never really thought much of it growing up because obviously as we were kids during that time and kids don't really think of the future. So we saw a lot of this shift going in this direction. Like to me, millennials have what I would say probably I'm going to use this term the last of a dying breed because the millennials got to experience everything like how things were in like the 70s and the 80s and they got to go outdoors and all that other stuff, which that's probably in here later on. Let me guess. Oh,
Uh,
so they got to experience like that lifestyle before all the electronics and everything else came out. But by the time we were starting to like get into high school and graduate and stuff like that, we were starting to see the evolution of technology and unfortunately like Isaiah's generation is they saw more of that shift in technology than what we actually saw. So like us millennials we're still kind of learning some of this stuff while there's Gen Zers out here who could like totally figure it out in a heartbeat.
Also, I just realized this. I kind of forgot about it, but this is a very good topic for the government shutting down this week.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, did you notice? I don't know if you noticed, but have you seen any chemtrails in the skies lately since the government shut down?
Is that what the weird little light thing that flew over me the other night?
The chemtrails are what comes off of a plane. The white streaks.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Have you seen any of those lately since the government shut down?
No.
Yeah, crazy, right?
So okay, so I'll give you a brief here for those of you who don't know anything about this government shutdown. So the government is officially shut down because there is a conflict between the Republicans and the Democrats on health care for illegal aliens. I repeat, there is a conflict between Republicans and Democrats for health care on illegal aliens. The reason I say that is because a lot of people mention the healthcare part of it and they blow that out of proportion. That is why I'm stressing the illegal alien part, right? So, with that being said, is a lot of it goes back to Obamacare. The Republicans didn't want to push Obamacare, so the Democrats shut the government down. I believe for like 17 days or something like that is what it was shut down for. But they shut that down, and finally the Democrats were able to get their way and push Obamacare through. Well, Obamacare allowed several illegal aliens to get health care a lot cheaper than what the American citizens were getting. So when Trump got back into office, he now has restructured it to where the US citizens get more of a tax break than the illegal immigrants, and the Democrats don't like it. So there has been a shutdown until they can figure it out. So it is not just like the media blows this out of proportion with, oh, well, they don't want to do healthcare. The simple fact is it is simply healthcare for illegal immigrants. So that is your little short brief on if you had no clue what we were talking about, a government shutdown.
Mhm. All right. Back to the script. Since we just a right turn,
Totally
left
went-
turn, 180 out the ballpark, and then came back in because we caught the home run. Here's Hazel's critical insight. The biggest financial risk is not what happens in the market. It's assuming tomorrow will look like yesterday. Post World War II generation, security was baked into the system, and today insecurity is baked into the system. Yeah, insecurity is baked into the system. That mindset shift is what makes job insecurity so crushing. Older generations think, what did you do wrong? While younger ones see it as normal. Honestly, I get it. I understand this a lot more now. Now that I'm
So before we move on, here's another little history lesson, right? So back in the day, like I don't know where this. So back in the day, every family used to own pretty much their own farm, and they used to do homegrown gardens, and it used to be off of a whole giant trade system, right? So like let's say Isaiah grew tomatoes and I grew corn, and so we'd switch corn for tomatoes, and everybody would profit, and that was how we made our money and everything else. And so families were actually together. Then the industrialization came along, pushed men into the workforce to make money, and and then women's rights came along, and that pushed women into the workforce because women wanted to be as equal as men. And now nobody wants to work, and that is why AI is stepping in. Basically, the whole gist of your history lesson right there.
Wow, that's crazy. So now let's talk about AI. Is AI taking over? Not exactly taking over every job. Not in the Terminator way people imagine.
I'll be back.
But yes. But yes,
To
AI
the chopper. Sorry, I had to.
AI is automating tasks inside many jobs. That means some roles shrink, others change, and new roles get created. Research has long warned that automation could displace large numbers of workers and require many people to switch occupations or learn new skills. McKinsey's research from 2017 estimated that 400 to 800 million workers globally could be displaced by automation by 2030. I want to know what the numbers are from 2025, Levi.
Tori.
You're good. More recently, their 2024 report, oh, look at you bouncing back, suggests that up to 30% of current hours work could be automated by 2030. Accelerated by generative AI, the World Economic Forum, or WEF, reported that while AI is expected to displace 85 million jobs by 2025, it is also creating 97 million new jobs. But here's the reality check. As of February 2024, only 5.4% of firms had formally adopted generative AI, so there's much more work to be done. A 2025 Pew Research study found that only 16% of workers say at least some of their work is currently done with AI, though 25% more say their work could be done with AI, and about 52% of all workers are worried about AI's future impact on jobs. A Washington Post analysis observes that AI is less about replacing entire roles and more about automating subtasks inside many roles. Recent evidence show mixed results. Some sectors show rapid replacement like translation and basic customer service, while others change more slowly because human judgment, context, or empathy matter.
Okay, so before we get into, or before we move on, so you were talking about like customer service, right?
Yeah.
So there are systems out there and that use AI for customer service, and I know a few. I've seen it in auto shops recently, like with reels and stuff like that, where it will, like, you can call in, you talk to it, basically it's a robot and everything else, and the robot actually sounds like a real human. You can text the number and they'll text you back, and what it does is it automatically puts in, so like the way auto shops are using it is like on the weekends, if you call in, it will automatically find a spot during your week in your system and say, hey, we have an opening on Tuesday at 9 o'clock. Will that work for you? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And you could do this on, like I said, you can do this on weekends. So that, or you could call at midnight or something and you get these people. So they are constantly using AI to book jobs and keep business in their shops. Now, I don't know how other people are using AI, because I know I can tell you is what I really hate about customer service is when you get there and it's like, hey, give me this information, give, like, how can I help you, and so on and so forth. And you're like, I'd rather talk to a human, because I believe that human's gonna know more of an answer than what you are. Now, if it's like to update your credit card or something, or like debit card or credit card or something like that, then AI is, or to pay a bill, AI is perfectly fine. But I don't think the whole customer service part of it, where they're trying to answer questions, because I've ran into that personally, where I've asked a question and they're like, we don't understand what you're talking about.
It's when you just say representative, representative. Do you want me to get you a representative? Yes, please.
The worst ones is when you call about parts online and you get some AI person or like some AI technology, and you're sitting here going, no, I want an actual person, because I want to know more about this part than what AI is going to tell me.
Mm-hmm.
Because AI is probably just going to tell me what I just read on the computer.
Mm-hmm. 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 Washington Post analysis observes that AI is less about replacing entire roles and more about automating subtasks
You just
inside
read
many
that,
roles.
buddy.
Did I?
Yeah, that's why it's talking about customer
Oh,
service, bro.
hey, thank you.
Anytime.
Thank you. So here's what we know for sure. Automation doesn't equal total job loss. And often AI removes tasks like data entry, which is boring to me, but well, it's not really boring, it's just time consuming.
Yeah.
Or routine translations. Rather than entire occupations, workers then need to take on different tasks or move into different roles or new roles. So, instead of sitting in the office for 5 hours trying to do data entry, you can actually be out in the field getting more job done or getting more business done. Like say like you're in the retirement business, you have all the grannies, you're signing up for healthcare or whatnot, and you just send it over and the computer just does it for you, and you just have to check the information. Bada bing, bada boom, you're getting more customers, you're getting more stuff done. Bada bing, bada boom.
Bada bing, bada boom.
So net effects vary by country and sector. Some economic models predict net job gains, while others predict large reallocation needs. The outcome depends heavily on education, training, and public policy. So who is more at the risk, Levi or I?
I don't think we're.
Wait, that's the wrong script. My bad. Wrong script. My bad.
I was gonna say the fields we're in. I don't. Okay. So from a mechanical standpoint, there has actually been proof that AI can take over mechanics jobs, but it is very, very limited, because I have watched where shops have tested this experiment, where they've recorded certain sounds of a car and asked AI to diagnose it, and it is extremely scary of how accurate AI can get. But AI also has been off a few times.
Mm.
And it's also crazy because they've typed things into AI and they're like, hey, what's wrong with my car? And they explain what's going on. And it is crazy of how AI can break down step by step of how to diagnose certain things. The problem that, or I wouldn't say the problem with AI is they can break it down of step by step of how to diagnose it, but they cannot physically do the hands-on testing. So, like I said, is it's kind of scary of how accurate it really gets, and if they figure out how to put that in auto shops, then you're gonna.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't know about the construction world very well.
I don't either. I
I
really have no clue.
I can tell you AI has, and then in the farming industry too, AI has kind of taken over the whole farming industry because you can put like sensors and stuff throughout your field and it will literally read rain data, like what's out there. So like can give you a prediction on yields, can tell you when you should start harvesting, when you should plant, stuff like all of
Mm-hmm.
that stuff. And it's crazy of how that actually works. And I don't know how accurate that technology is just yet, but I do know like when you go to like spraying application on fields, they're now using a form of pretty much a form of AI where it will only spray on the plants that it detects and not actually the crops themselves, which I'm still sketchy about that one too, because how many plants are you not going to be able to detect out in a field?
Oh.
Co- Coverage is everything if you're trying to kill a plant. And that's the problem with AI is if you detect a plant and you don't get the right coverage. That's the downfall.
Mm-hmm. So workers doing routine, repeatable tasks are most vulnerable. So basic data entry, like we just talked above. Standard copy and paste document work. Oh, that'd be so simple. Simple bookkeeping. Some translation, call center scripts, and form processing.
Wow, I kind of talked about those.
Yeah. Also, now AI is coming for your music career if you do music. It's coming for, your podcast career if you do podcast. It's coming for.
It's basically coming for everything.
It's basically coming for
Like
everything. Let's just be real.
what really scared me and what really opened my eyes with the whole AI thing is when people started doing like when I started watching the videos of auto shops and doing experiment with AI and how accurate it can get.
Mm.
Like that to me started like, oh crap.
Lower wage workers tend to feel more vulnerability. McKinsey projects 11.8 million US workers may need to switch occupations by 2030, with lower wage jobs being 14 times more likely to be disrupted. Globally, it's estimated that between 75 million and 375 million workers may have to switch occupational categories due to automation and AI. Oh man, so the young worker crisis, and here's the hard truth about young workers. A groundbreaking Stanford University study released in August 2025 found that unemployment for workers aged 22 to 25 in the most AI exposed jobs, including software development, customer service, and marketing, has dropped by 13% relative to less exposed roles since late 2022 when ChatGPT launched. Entry level positions in these fields declined by roughly 20%, while employment for older workers in the same jobs actually grew. This isn't just anxiety, it's real job displacement happening right now. And it's hitting young workers the hardest. The Stanford researchers found that in early career workers are experiencing what they call a significant or proportionate impact. So what are the jobs least affected?
Wow. I kind of explained.
Yeah, you kind of went off on it.
I should have waited until the end and gave like a brief into this category. My
Yeah.
bad.
Oh well, it's fine. Pretty much your trade jobs. So electricians, plumbers, HVAC techs, mechanics, carpenters, all these that actually require a lot of hands-on work. These require unpredictable physical work and on-site problem solving that AI can't replicate. I wouldn't say on-site problem solving. It's more like you do it or you don't, and if it's wrong, well,
But it is, I mean, but it is on-site problem solving because you're going like, so like electricians or plumbers or like HVAC guys, or even if you're in a shop, right? You're going out there and you got to diagnose the problem before. And I understand you can misdiagnose something. Like, we're
mm,
all human, we can misdiagnose things, but to me, the on-site problem solving is going out there and saying, "Hey, why does this AC not work?" And then you're going in there and you're like, "Oh, hey, the compressor is bad. Replace the compressor and it runs."
mm.
I mean, that to me would be your on-site problem solving.
Also, who is safe is caring professions.
Like nurses, therapists, social workers, high social intelligence, judgment, and empathy keep these roles safe.
How did you know all those right off your head? That's crazy. Safe.
Which
I
is okay. So really, really quick here. So that mentioned like therapists, right?
is
So I don't know exactly how to word this, but I would say for like the whole empathy part is the biggest thing here. But like a few weeks ago, there was guy who I think shot up a school, wasn't it?
I have
Or
no
no,
clue.
it was a guy who like hung himself, and the only person he was able to talk to for therapy was ChatGPT. Like, AI is helpful if you don't feel comfortable talking to someone,
Hmm.
but at the same time, ChatGPT helped this guy commit suicide
Hmm.
because, like, the questions he asked, the responses they gave him, so on and so forth. And I don't know how he worded his questions because all AI is going off of is how things are worded.
Hmm.
Because you can tell, like, let's say you tell ChatGPT like, "Hey, I'm feeling depressed. I want to kill myself. What do I do?" Right? Or something along those lines. And so ChatGPT would be like, "Well, if you want to killing your like ChatGPT could come back and say, "Hey, killing yourself will end your depression." I'm
Hmm.
not saying that's ChatGPT's answer, but it's the way you worded it, and that's how it took it and was like, "Hey, this is the best answer according to our algorithm."
Hmm.
So really, really watch your, I mean, because like I said, you can use AI for therapy, but be cautious with it.
Yes, 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 yes. And jobs requiring complex human judgment or creativity. You're safe. Senior managers, creative directors, specialty medicine, complex legal work. The nuance and high stakes decision making protect these positions. So reality check. Here's your check, please. Here's your check. But here's the thing, not everyone can or will move into trades. Capacity and local demand vary. There aren't always enough trade openings for everyone who wants one. Physical limitations, geographic constraints, aptitude requirements, and market saturation all play a role. Hence, the stress of insecurity is real for many.
Okay, so before we get into this, so first of all, it mentioned like the whole trade jobs, right?
Mm,
And not enough slots for everyone. With that being said, is we have noticed in the trade industry that there is a lot, and I mean a lot of job openings in the trade market right now what because A, people don't want to work and they would rather sit behind a computer and do nothing and get paid. And B, trade jobs are just stressful and
I don't think it's so much as we just want to sit behind a computer and get paid. I think it's more of dealing with the people we got to deal with. I think it was if they had a choice of sitting behind a computer and doing like construction as a hobby, they'd probably do construction as a hobby, for their own stuff or for family or something.
so okay, so bouncing off of that point. And I'm pretty sure there might be a segment in here, or this might get brought up later, so this might be a giant brief. But you we're on the topic of trades and AI, right? Gosh dang it! Now I kind of lost my point here.
Do you need me to
No.
it was talking about people being people.
Okay, so yeah. So with that being said, so a lot of it is there, and I watch. I'm gonna give a shout out to Royalty Auto down in Georgia, and give a shout out to Sherwood Cook because I watch a lot of his videos. So if you want to tag him in this, you're welcome to. But I watch a lot of videos, and he was talking about how a lot of shops don't want to invest back into their people or their employees, right? So what he does is he takes them to, like, he takes his techs to conferences and stuff. So like they're like, he takes them to SEMA, which is a big automotive thing. He takes them to like there's conferences down in Vegas, and what it does is you are literally going to classes to learn more about your trade or to learn more about a piece of equipment that's coming out or something, and to deal with your field, right? To help you get better at it. So like it could be like a transmission class, it could be like how to get books better for like your secretaries, I mean stuff like that. And I've noticed a lot around here is people aren't willing to do that, and if you want to do that, you have to pay for yourself to go to those courses.
And then you lose out on money because you're not working.
Exactly. So like I believe that if you put your as a business owner, if you invest your time and your money into your employees, they will produce more for you, and you wouldn't have to worry about AI. And I think that's part of the job insecurity is, why am I going to go into a field when no one's going to invest in me?
Which we kind of already covered in segment 1. Moving on, we talked about this last week, and I slid it in again this week.
It is just, if you have not heard it, I would totally advise you to go and listen to it. It is just incredible of the insight that Paul Harvey had in 1965, and the things that he witnessed in 1965. Like, I wouldn't say he predicted the future, right? I wouldn't say that, but there were things changing, and he saw a shift, and he made a video on that shift, and at the end of it he said, if I was the devil, I would just keep doing what I'm doing right now to destroy the world, basically. So
yeah, so the famous 1965 broadcast, "If I Were the Devil" by Paul Harvey. Harvey said the devil wouldn't attack directly. He would twist culture subtly. Oh my goodness. I'm gonna struggle. I'm just skipping that word. I know I'm gonna struggle. Slowly corrupting what was good. Well, if I were the devil or a CEO looking to maximize profits, what better way to control workers than through fear of losing their jobs? So I went and asked AI, based off of the "If I Were the Devil," what would happen. Now, whether this is off the broadcast or not is up for your interpretation. So step 1, flood with fear. Keep people worried about layoffs so they don't ask for raises. Create an atmosphere where everyone's replaceable. Crazy. Step 2.
That goes back into like investing back into your employees.
Divide and conquer. Pit workers against each other. Outsourcing versus local workers.
Is that pit or put?
That's pit.
Okay.
That's PIT.
I know. It just, when you said it, just didn't sound right. That's why I was asking.
I put a little emphasis and
that's why I was like, that's why I was making sure when you wrote that right.
Yeah. Gig workers versus full-time employees, contractors versus salaried staff. When workers fight each other, they're not fighting the system.
Okay. Before we go on to that, there has been a big push in the trade industry right now for so there with like compared to like hourly and salary pay, right? Because they have noticed that people who are on hourly wages don't really care to do the job,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then you put people on salary and, well, okay, I wouldn't say really salary, but more of like a commission or a comp pay, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's they're very very similar, but they're different. So, like salary pay is you get X amount of dollars a year, and then they break that down. Comp pay is you. So let's say the book tells you it takes 2 hours to do a job, right? You're getting paid, and it takes you 3 hours to do that job. Well, you're only getting paid for those 2 hours. That's how it works. And so there has been a big push because they've noticed that people on comp pay will like push through things and not do the job right just to make more money and to get like 40, 50 hours a week in their job. So there has actually been a big push in the trade industry now to where they get you paid salary, or not paid salary, but paid hourly. So you get X amount of dollars an hour, but you get a comp bonus at the end of it. So let's say you work 40 hours a week so you work 40 hours a week, and let's say you did 50 hours of your job. Well, you're going to get X amount of dollars on top of your paycheck for that comp time. And they have noticed that now more people with that system want to go into the trade field because they don't feel totally stuck. And they feel like they can actually make a living off of that job. So, sorry, side note.
Step 3, normalize precarity. Rebrand insecurity as empowerment, call it flexibility, or the hustle economy. Make people think that job hopping every 2 years is innovation, not instability.
Okay, so I'll hit on this. A lot of the reason people job hop a lot is for more money, right? Because if you stay at a job, let's say like 4 years, and I'm just gonna throw a number out here, but let's say you're at a job for 4 years and you make $20 an hour, right? So, and then you basically you flatline at some point. And so let's say you flatline at that $20. Well, you can go to this company and you can now make $25 an hour. Well, you're going to obviously job hop and go make that 25 because that's the only way you're going to move up. And then that's why everybody keeps, because usually what companies do is they hire you at either the same pay as what you're making from the previous company, or they give you a raise to give you an incentive to come work for them. And then eventually it's just a revolving door of you flatline, you move on, you flatline, you move on, and it never ends.
Step 4, dangle hope. Promotion, bonuses, or maybe next year, incentives to keep people grinding. The carrot is always just out of reach. So that is so true.
I'm just going to give my 2 cents on this. Bonuses should be not taxed.
Yeah.
Just
honestly, any overtime should not be taxed. Bonuses should not be taxed. Anything other than your base pay should not be taxed.
Pretty much.
Step 5, silence with shame. Convince workers that losing a job is a personal failure, not systematic or systemic. I think it's supposed to be systematic. What did you do wrong? When really the game was rigged from the start. Yeah.
So one other thing I'm going to put in here is we talked about promotions, right? I have seen a lot of companies promote the wrong people because they become buddy with somebody, and then they can't ever figure out why that company becomes stagnant. That's the word I'm looking for. Becomes stagnant because instead of promoting the hardworking person, they promoted the wrong person, and it eventually falls apart.
Paul Harvey warned that the devil would make people believe that marriage vows are nothing. In today's economy, corporations have made loyalty mean nothing. Harvey said the devil would convince them work is debasing. Today, work has become disposable and meaningless, a number on a spreadsheet.
Yep. So right, so numbers on a spreadsheet, right? A lot of the problems with like CEOs now is CEOs don't actually, like, they look at it and they see nothing but numbers. And they're like, "Oh, this department's failing, so we need to get rid of this manager out the window and bring in some new guy to give them motivation." Well, let's put it this way, maybe that old manager, everybody liked him and he was actually a really really good manager. The problem is you didn't have the right equipment to produce what you needed to produce. So now you just fired somebody that everybody liked and everybody rallied behind, instead of investing into your equipment to make that department better. That's just my saying that.
Job insecurity, framed this way, isn't just economics, it's a slow corrosion of the social contract disguised as business strategy. Outsourcing and automation created what economists calls the two-tier economy. Winners, corporation shareholders, high-skilled workers who can navigate the system, tech-savvy elites who own the AI, the data, the platforms, and of course the losers, everyday workers whose skills were undervalued or replaced.
So in other words, picture this like a giant football team, right?
You have the all-stars stacked on one team, and you have the third strings of every team on the other team.
Okay, that's a sports analogy. I was gonna say picture like a football team where you have like the quarterbacks, the wide receivers, and the running backs on one side. They're getting all the glory because they're scoring the touchdowns, throwing the touchdowns, all the stats. But you have your big ass linemen up front who get absolutely nothing, and they're the ones who's making sure everybody else's jobs, or making sure they're protecting everybody else so they can do their job and look good.
Never had that problem.
Yeah, you dumb running back.
Yeah, it happens.
That's what happens when you're in the trenches, like I was.
The American dream shifted from stable work and a pension to keep hustling and hope you don't get cut. So, what can you do about it?
What is the American dream anymore?
We already discussed. I am not going into that whole subject again.
Okay.
Unless it gets brought up later on and we have a full episode. So what can you actually do about this? So you can learn AI literacy. There are a bunch of free classes online where you can learn how to code and write AI, or just learn AI in general. So learn AI tools, or how AI tools affect your job and how to use them to amplify, not replace your work. Short courses and free tutorials are widely available. A recent edX survey found that 67% of millennials are considering upskilling or reskilling due to AI concerns.
The other thing you could do is join the military and have the government pay for you to go learn all this stuff.
Or you just take the free classes from like Harvard and all the MIT. I think MIT also has a bunch of free classes.
I was trying to get a promo
I
in
know.
there. Because, you know, it's crazy. They always tell you military numbers are so down, nobody ever wants to join the military. But I don't know if those numbers are actually true or not.
I call BS.
I don't know. They always tell you every single year in a briefing, our military numbers are down. You need to go recruit your friends.
I think it's the same thing as what like companies do with job openings.
Oh, I know.
They leave it open so they can have like tax write-offs or like grant money or some BS like that.
I'm pretty sure it is.
All right. Anyway, CBS News reports that workers who can learn how to use AI to help them do their jobs better will be best positioned for success in today's labor market. The OECD emphasizes that upskilling and reskilling are essential. You can also upskill, which is what we've been talking about, to complement AI. Second, upskill to complement AI. Focus on skills AI struggles with: complex problem solving, interpersonal communication, physical trade skills, critical thinking, and deep domain expertise. These are the skills that kept jobs safe even when during outsourcing waves, and they'll keep you relevant in the AI age. You can also build hybrid skills. Third, build hybrid skills. Combine technical abilities with human skills. Think a nurse who can use AI diagnostics effectively, or a customer service manager like Levi with his AI phone calls, who can AI tools while maintaining the human touch, or a marketer who can interpret AI driven insights and tell the human story. Or you can consider freelancing, which is just,
Obviously, as that is kind of self-explanatory.
yeah, building a portfolio. You have social media, use it wisely. Don't go be looking at stupid stuff on there. And diversifying your income streams to create more security. Don't put all your eggs in one employer's basket. In times of disruption, personal reputation and professional relationships and visibility can offer protection, network, mentor, and stay visible. Also, you can take advantage in training programs, apprenticeships, and government employment incentives where available. The OECD and national programs are expanding support options. Use them. Governments and nonprofits are scaling training programs. Or what we just talked about, freelancing, is start your own business.
So, before we get into the whole business thing, is do your research before you start your own business. Like in today's world, starting a business is a lot more difficult than say like 20, 30 years ago. So just do your homework and understand that it may take a lot more time to build it than just overnight.
Yes, yes, as I have learned. Yes, ups and downs, and away we go.
And if you want to know anything about business stuff, well, obviously Isaiah has his own business, and I ran a mobile repair shop for like 8 months before my partner and I had a falling out. I can tell you a few things I learned in those 8 months that I never expected. And if I ever start a business again, I'm going to do things a little differently because of what I learned.
Back. So the employer and policy actions. But we can't expect individuals alone to carry this burden. For just stable transition, systemic action is critical. So company level actions from employers offer retraining bundles like Levi was mentioning, and redeployment programs rather than layoffs when AI arrives. Use transparent AI policies. Employees should know what AI is used for and receive guidance on how to adapt. Invest in complementary human roles, not just further automation. However, as of February 2024, only 5.4% of firms have formally adopted generative AI. So there's much more work to be done. Companies need to step it up. So, yeah.
Up, and away.
Up and away. From governments and policymakers, subsidize lifelong learning to make training accessible and inclusive. Use wage supports, retraining stipends, and safety nets for those displaced. Enact policies to ensure gains from automation are more evenly distributed. Taxation, competition policy, regulating concentration, expand infrastructure and connectivity in rural and unserved areas to reduce geographic inequality.
Taxation sucks. I want to know how we got all these random taxes.
Honestly, I saw something about they're adding like more tax on tea, and they're like, let's throw the tea overseas, or the Boston Tea Party.
Here's the funny, like I wouldn't say funny part, but the whole weird part about taxes is you literally now have a death tax.
Mm-hmm.
So like if our parents like I know our parents are eventually going to die, which I don't want to think about that day.
Mm.
But when that day happens, why are we held accountable for paying a tax for something that you cannot prevent from happening?
I know. I know.
Like that to me, that's the dumbest thing.
They want to add taxes to food now, and it's like,
You already have food taxes.
yeah,
You take taxes out of my paycheck, and then I go to the grocery store and I buy stuff at the grocery store, and you tax me at the counter, and you tax me on my fuel, you tax me on my car, tax me on my house.
well, the stuff that you need, you shouldn't, like food and water and stuff, you shouldn't tax. But, whatever. The OECD reports recommended or
Coordinated. Hey, Mr. Funny Guy over there.
training and social supports across sectors. Many OECD countries are already implementing strategies to support upskilling, training, and more inclusive transitions. We need policies that works for workers, not just shareholders. More money for the workers, less for the shareholders.
Okay. With that being said, and this is just something I'm gonna put like a baseline on, right? I believe that everybody should have the same thing across the board, no matter what you are. So like if it's
Equal pay.
well, I'd say equal pay. You could have like equal pay or like say insurance policies because like certain shareholders or even government officials get different healthcare options and insurance options and so on and so forth. To me is you need to make like a baseline across the board and say, hey, if you are going to get these benefits, then everybody needs to get these benefits.
Yes.
And make a baseline because what's that gonna do is that's gonna one not only help like with your paycheck, but it's also going to make people who make these decisions like government officials or CEOs or whatever, they're going to say like, oh hey, this policy sucks and we need to do something about it because now it's hurting me and it's hurting my company.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the problem is like CEOs don't see that. They're like, oh hey, we're bringing in X amount of dollars, and they don't see how it's actually affecting their employees. Sorry, side note.
That's fine. Now let's address some common arguments and misconceptions about AI or jobs in general. AI only destroys jobs.
False.
Yes, McKinsey and other research organizations show both displacement and job creation scenarios. The World Economic Forum projects 97 million new jobs created alongside 85 million displaced. The Birched Works report found that starting salaries for entry-level AI workers rose 12% from 2024 to 2025. New opportunities exist. But here's a critical
Caveat.
I really thought that was an L.
It kind of looks like it.
Yeah, it really does. That doesn't erase the fact that who it helps and who it hurts matters. The transition is uneven, disruptive, and risky for those ill-prepared without support systems.
Everyone can just switch to trades.
Not really.
So I wouldn't say it's not really we don't want everyone, but not everyone is cut out for certain jobs.
Yes.
So
there we go. That's a better way of putting it. We don't want you.
So trades, there is a very high demand for trade jobs right now, but also is trade jobs can be very stressful, and you can also work very, very long hours. And I don't know how else to explain.
You may be working outside when you're used to an office job and in the heat.
There's a lot of variables that go into trade jobs. That's because like as I just said, is you could like if you go into like construction, you are probably working outside. So that means you could be working in the snow, working in 100-degree weather, depending on where you're at, rain, stuff like that. The other thing is like if you go into, say, like mechanics, you could be working in a very, very hot shop that doesn't have AC. So you got to kick the doors open to get air. And you could also like burn yourself on a hot engine, possibly break some knuckles or bust some knuckles, stuff like that. So it is, like I said, the trade jobs are not for everyone, but if you want to learn a hands-on skill or you think you are capable of doing that, there are a lot of trade job opportunities out there right now.
Yes, companies will handle this on their own. History says otherwise. We should hold companies and governments accountable, like Levi
Man,
was saying. Transparency, training budgets, tax policies, and competition rules matter enormously in determining whether AI benefits are shared broadly or concentrated among a few. Remember the outsourcing wave? Companies didn't protect workers then, and they won't now without pressure.
quick thing on that. So basically, let's put it this way, the CEO himself is more worried about putting money in his pocket than he is about how you're doing in your own personal life.
Yes.
So with that being said, is if we had more CEOs that actually cared about his or her employees, their employees, then and actually went around and talked to people and tried to figure out like I used the example earlier of they fired a manager and say it wasn't the manager's fault of that department, it was actually equipment. So like if the CEO would have gone out and actually talked to employees and talked to people, he would realize, hey, everybody rallies around this manager, but equipment sucks, so we are not able to produce enough product to get it out the door. So, hey, I need to invest in this department. And that would be one thing, is if CEOs would actually do that, but instead they're more worried about playing golf and drinking beers with their buddies and putting money in their pocket and taking vacations on company planes and you name it.
Yeah, yeah,
And
pretty
if I
much.
get fired from this, I don't care. I've called out about every CEO, so
I mean, there's also the fact, even in trade jobs, you have the one office person that designs and everything, and then you go out and what looks good on paper doesn't work out in real life,
in other words, Ford.
and sometimes it's a lot different when you get to sit in the office in air conditioning or in heating, and you're outside either in 100 and some degrees with like 90% humidity and you're dying out there, or you watch someone pass out from work and you got to go stop work and take care of that guy, or during the winter time when it's below freezing, or just like negative degrees and you're outside working because no one knows better in the office.
So I was actually talking to a farmer earlier today, and we're kind of it's a little off topic, but it's kind of on topic.
Mhm.
So he was telling me that back in the day, you used to be able to. So he's a big John Deere guy, and so you used to go out to Iowa to the John Deere plant in Iowa and actually watch your combine get built, and then they had a little test area where they would test out your brand new combine or your brand new tractor or whatever piece of equipment you were buying, right? And they would actually test it and try to get all the bugs worked out of it before they actually sent it home with you. And
Mhm.
you got to physically watch that whole entire process. Now they build it and they're like, "Oh, our technology is so great, we will never have problems." And they ship it on a trailer, send it to your farm and drop it. And then when you go to use it, you run into nothing with problems, and then you got to call a tech out there to come and sort it all out. So
Mhm.
that's just another thing of how everything has kind of shifted.
Mm.
Yeah.
This is just another cycle. True, but AI is different in scale and velocity. Tasks once considered safe are now threatened. The speed, like music, bro, music. Who would have thought music, of all things, would be replaced by AI? The speed of change pushes urgency. We can't assume past patterns guarantee the same outcomes. So anyway, I have a conspiracy theory. Honestly, I wrote this so long ago, I don't even remember if my conspiracy theory makes sense or not. With office jobs getting replaced and the barrier between rich and poor separating, it begs the question, are there too many rich people in the world? So pretty much where I am going with this is like there seems like there's more of a separation going between the
There,
rich and the poor,
oh,
and
there is the. In other words, there is no more. It's been physically proven there is no more middle class now. It is either you're rich or you're poor. Continue.
I kind of lost my train of thought, so I'm gonna keep on. Are rich people creating AI and investing in AI to create more of a separation, to be richer and have more of a voice? So instead of paying workers, they just invest in AI and tend to make more money. And the poor ends up getting poorer and jobless, and then they're, doing whatever.
This goes back to kind of what Sherwood was talking about in his video of how if you would actually take the time and invest in your employee, you would not have to worry about. I mean, AI can still help your business. I'm not going to deny that, but a lot of these jobs are being replaced by AI because higher ups are not willing to invest into skill sets for those people and they would just rather replace them with robots.
So anyway, this point is provocative, because it is just a conspiracy theory. But you think about it, it's not too far fetched when you consider history.
History repeats itself.
Exactly, nothing new happens under the sun. Escalades 1-9.
Escalades or Ecclesiastes?
Yeah, that one. I always say Escalades. It's just funner to say. I never actually knew how to pronounce it.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Brusky. There is a risk of automation amplifying inequality. Returns on capital versus returns on labor diverge. Those who own the AI, the data, the platforms benefit disproportionately. Without regulation or redistribution, gains from automation can concentrate in fewer hands. Some things tanks warn of a winner takes all world. AI accelerates advances for new or early movers, big tech dominance, and barriers to entry. New technologies often come with new power structures. The question is, do we let this happen unconstrained, or do we fight for fairness, transparency, and shared benefit? So, yes, the conspiracy theory isn't far fetched. This is a legitimate concern rooted in economic pattern. AI could become a tool for the wealthy to further entrench their power and separate it from the rest.
Okay, so what's really, I'm not trying to get like biblical here, but if you actually read the book of Revelation, it is really scary of the advancements being made in AI now and how it talks about AI and things of AI is the downfall of pretty much humanity, and that's when Jesus comes back to return. So personally, I don't know when that'll all happen, but with the advancements of AI, it is starting to get scarier and scarier if you read the book of Revelation.
So, any final thoughts before we close this?
I got nothing.
You got nada. So, where does this leave us? Job insecurity isn't new. It's been building since the 70s, accelerating through outsourcing and now turbocharged by AI. The difference between our grandparents' generation and ours is simple. They assume security was the default. We know insecurity is the system. But here's the thing. Awareness is power. Understanding how we got here from the golden age to the devil's playbook means we can push back. We can demand better from companies and governments. We can upskill smarter, not just harder. We can build communities of workers who support each other instead of competing for scraps. Silence is always a yes and lawyerism and like lawyer speech. If you stay silent, you are accepting the results of what's happening. So if you stay silent about your job and about life and everything, then you're just going to keep ending up in the system and the cycle. But if you decide to speak out and you
What
get
is that
more
saying?
people to speak out with you, you can start to win. But also know that when you start speaking out, you're going to gain enemies. And people are going to call you stupid and unbelieve in you because they've been so used to the system that they don't realize that they are actually hurting. So there you go.
There's a saying out there, and I'm trying to find it.
But anyway, I'm gonna start the merch because you can also go get that on iceentertainment.net/drip. So the psychology of money hasn't changed, or no, the psychology of money has changed. The world of work has changed, but we don't have to accept job insecurity as inevitable. And my goodness, why can I not say the big words tonight? Inevitable. There we go. We just have to be honest about what we're up against and fight for something better. The future isn't written yet. It will be shaped by those who act today. Let's make sure that you are not one of them, or let's make sure you are one of them, not another casualty or disruption. My bad.
So before we get into the last paragraph here, I cannot find the statement I am thinking of, but you mentioned that silence is basically, like, the saying is something like silence is deadly, right? And you also mentioned that if you speak out, you will create enemies. So, I mean, you look at, like, you can look at history, because we talked about history here too, but you look at people like JFK or ML or Martin Luther King, or recently like Charlie Kirk, right? You look at a lot of those guys, and the list goes on and on and on. I could name several other people, but I just use those three for an example. But look at what happened to those three people for speaking out and trying to get people to open their eyes to a different viewpoint. I mean, even Jesus himself came down here and got mocked and ridiculed and even died on a cross for trying to speak the truth. So there's a saying out there, the truth will set you free, and honestly it really does, but you also have to be willing to stand up for the truth and not just go silently.
Anything else you'd like to add?
No,
That's your passion statement.
You were kind of just talking about like that stuff, and it just hit.
Holy Spirit fueled me, man.
Yeah.
I just went, bro. So thank you for listening today to the Fruitful 3 show. If this challenged the way you think, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Levi, you need to hear it. Listen to it.
Just
okay.
Listen.
Just listen.
Just
Honestly,
listen,
okay.
Linda. Listen, Linda.
Okay, since we've gone here, this has nothing to do with the podcast at all. I was gonna throw this in questions and I kind of spaced it. But since we've gone here and you mentioned that, I have been doing like a Bible study, right, with myself because I'm cool like that. And so I've been looking, and it's like, if you talk to anyone for long enough, they will always mention someone's not listening or something about listening. And so you start to look, and it's like in the Bible, no one ever actually listens to God, Jesus, or the prophets. They very seldomly listen. So there's the first problem, and I'm looking for three. So there is, because three is everything comes in threes, right?
Yep.
So I found listening.
It's either threes or it's 40.
And in the same verses that you can find people struggling to listen, you can also find them with trust. Everyone doesn't trust no one, or, vice versa. Everyone talks about trust. So you see two things in the same thing. But what is the third one? Now I have an idea, but I don't know if it's real or not. But if you have an idea of what the third one is, leave it in the comments below.
Okay. But so I'll give you, so bouncing off of Isaiah's point, right? So one example that came to mind was Jonah, right? So God told Jonah to go to Nineveh, right?
Yeah, Nineveh.
Yeah, Nineveh. Sorry, I had to think of the town for a minute there. But God told Jonah to go to Nineveh and like preach the gospel. I won't really say preach the gospel, but basically tell them the way they're living is wrong. And if you don't stop living the way you're living, then God's going to come in and it's not going to be pleasant, right? So God's basically giving these people a warning because he has a plan for these people, and Jonah is the missionary for this plan. Well, Jonah's like, I ain't going there. Screw you, dude. Like, that's a bad town. I'm too good for that. So he's like, see ya, deuces. And he decides to dip. Well, while he's sitting on a boat one night, this huge giant storm comes. And finally Jonah's like, all right, I give up. Throw me overboard. And I guarantee if you throw me overboard, this whole storm's going to stop. What do people do? They throw him overboard. Storm stops. Jonah gets ate by a whale. Or not really ate, but swallowed by a whale.
It's a big fish.
Same thing.
It is believed to be a whale, but they cannot prove that it was a whale.
Okay.
So it was a big fish.
Okay, whatever. So in that whole deal, like basically Jonah breaks down and he starts like praying to God, like, man, I really screwed up. Like, okay, like you got me, like I'll go do whatever you need to do. Right? So as Isaiah was saying is Jonah didn't want to listen. God obviously told Jonah, like, hey, this is what you're doing. This is what I want you doing. Jonah didn't listen. Jonah then dealt with the consequences of not listening. And the third one, you can leave your comments down below. But the third one is you finally obey.
Hey, yes, that's the same one I have. Obey or faith, faith, act of faith or whatever I have.
Yeah,
So yes, obeying, yes. I actually had the serpent, trusting a serpent and flesh, then because Adam and Eve,
the downfall of man.
Yeah, because Eve listened to a serpent and trusted a serpent, thank God, and then Adam trusted flesh, thank God, and listened to flesh, thank God, and didn't obey the thing. And then I had like a New Testament one too to really show the equivalent of how time hasn't changed, but I don't remember that. But anyway, that went forever. So
listen, Linda.
Yeah, listen, Linda. Don't say listen, Linda, around me. You're gonna get a Bible study. So stay fruitful, stay informed, and we'll catch you next time. Peace, love, happiness, and unity. And we're out.
Deuces.